Doug, as you look at the Sumerian cylinder seals, they were absolutely riveting. You would have to conclude that they were talking about things that were celestial, and in most cases, some kind of visitation. Wouldn't you?
Well, that's what they said. They said that the gods came down from heaven and gave them their laws and their culture intact and handed them off and said, "You are our sheep, our cattle. We are your gods, and here are the laws, and this is what you must do to survive." And these beings were said to have come down from the stars in the sky, specifically the planets. And in one famous cylinder seal that Sitchin talked about, they even showed a collection of what appeared to be all 9 planets, the sun and the moon, in one of the Sumerian cylinder seals.
And there's an extra one in there, right?
Yeah, and there's another one which would fit Planet X. And so people tried to say, oh, it's just coincidence. I mean, how can it be coincidence?
There are no coincidences.
Back in the late 1980s, I was concerned about the way things are going culturally, and I wanted to see if maybe Jesus was returning in my lifetime. So I began studying apocalyptic, the Bible, that related things, some ancient texts, the Apocrypha and so forth. And I came across a mysterious passage in Matthew 24 where Jesus described his second coming to be immediately preceded by a sign in the heavens. And this is kind of the secret. Planet X, when it returns, appears suddenly.
Like it sneaks up on you.
It sneaks up even like a thief in the night.
Yeah.
But the Planet X theory was greatly enhanced and brought back to life when the Voyager probes flew past planets Uranus and Neptune. And they found that they were in total disarray. Uranus is actually rotating on its side with the South Pole pointing towards the sun half the time.
Caused by something out there, right?
Something very massive. They calculated it was something 3 to 5 times the mass of Earth. Must have passed very near this planet and pulled it over, possibly impacted either it or with one of its satellites, turning Uranus, which is a very good-sized planet, over literally on its side. It's like this giant bowling ball just bowled through the outer solar system and knocked the planets over on their sides. If Planet X came in that close, it would explain why there's a field of rubble out there at asteroids, because it probably conflicted with the planet that used to be there and moved it to a different position. And I believe we can discuss this. This is actually reflected in the book of Genesis. Planet X, in my studies, seems to come by every 2,000 years during major changes in Earth history and upheavals in human culture. For example, 2,000 years ago, you had the birth of Christianity, literally the birth of Christ. 2,000 years before that, you had the destruction of the Empire of Sumer, which was effectively similar to the downfall of the United States. I mean, Sumer was the empire of the age, even greater than Egypt in some ways. And the Sumerian Empire was actually overthrown by, in their own histories, they described their god Enlil, appeared in the heavens and threw down fire upon them, a fiery spear which destroyed their country. That this meteorite struck Sumer and basically destroyed it and weakened it so badly that it never recovered. It was eventually conquered by Babylonians, who then put together all of the old texts of the Sumerians and assembled what we know now as the Enuma Elish, or the Babylonian creation epic, which Sitchin used as his reference point for writing the 12th planet.
What are the odds of something like that happening in that region, which was the cradle of civilization?
It does seem unlikely, because to strike near Ur would be kind of like a meteorite striking within 10 miles of Washington. It's pretty unlikely. That's why they felt that they'd been judged by the gods, because it was so devastating and such a precise hit by such a large asteroid. It was interesting to note that they said Enlil actually appeared in heaven. Enlil was the precursor to Marduk, the Babylonian deity. Enlil was the deity of the Sumerian Akkadian mixed race, who in turn had superseded Anu of the Sumerians. And all three of those were, in Sitchin's paradigm, and I agree with him, were all designations for Planet X, which appeared in the heavens every 2,000 years or so. And since it passed through the asteroid belt, it would usually throw asteroids everywhere. And some of those would hit Earth and cause cataclysms. And this is why you had actually the Sumerians who got it right. Their god Enlil, the planet appeared in the heavens again, as it does every 2,000 years.
Doug, part of Zecharia Sitchin's theory on Planet X, of course, was that it brought the Anunnaki, its inhabitants, with them. What do you think of that, the fact that there were extraterrestrials involved here?
It's interesting that in the Nume Elish, the Marduk appears to be linked with the Anunnaki and another group of divine beings called the Ajiji, which comprise the divine assembly in the Babylonian mythos. And these both got together to create a stage tower of Babylon, probably the Tower of Babel described in the Bible. It's also described in Nume Elish. It's specifically used to worship Marduk and to track its movements. And the Nume Elish actually describes Marduk as a star that moves, i.e. as a planet. So it's explicitly noted that Marduk is actually a planet. And it seems that possibly this planet may be some sort of a staging ground or even a throne for these deities, a place, even a different kingdom altogether than the kingdom of this world. And it may be that whenever Planet X comes around, some of these beings are thrown down from that kingdom and are forced to live on Earth because they're no longer worthy to live on this planet. Possibly I've looked in my studies of the Bible, it would seem that Planet X might be somehow related to the throne of God itself, as possibly some sort of a traveling throne chariot that moves through the heavens. Isaiah talks about how God moves through the heavens in a circle. Actually, I believe it's Isaiah 51. And it appears every once in a while, every 2,000 years or so, there's kind of an intermixing of humanity with these divine beings. I suspect there's been an ongoing cosmic war for who knows how many thousands or millions of years, and God has been gradually pushing and collecting these beings and putting them on this planet. And mankind, part of the reason for his creation was to kind of keep an eye on these beings until they could all be collected and finally sentenced. But Satan managed to bribe Adam and Eve and escaped his jail, and their sin entered the world as a result.
Now, back to this search for Planet X. You tied it into the creation, the second coming. Tell me more about that.
It is not only in the Bible, it is fundamental to the Bible. It is the outer parameters of the beginning and ending. And there appears to be a consistent theme of God battling a dragon. At the end times, God will battle Leviathan again and put him down for good. And the exact quote was, "In that day the Lord with his sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea." This is a consistent theme throughout the Old Testament, and particularly in the creation material and in the end times. And this also shows up in the Nume Elish, where the dragon is equated with Earth, and the warrior deity, in this case Marduk, was equated with some other star or planet in the heavens. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that there's something going on here. They conceptually thought of a battle between two planets being closely linked to the creation and the end times. The Nephilim and the Anunnaki and the Babylonian mythos apparently came down from this planet, which came towards Earth and interacted with it. And every time this planet apparently comes near Earth again, they'd come down again and begin rebreeding the giants. My guess is, generically speaking, since these fallen angels are at war with God, that they come down to try to raise an army that they can raise to try to attack heaven again and retake Planet X, possibly away from God himself. This is their experience, and they wrote it down, put it on clay tablets, made a part of the oral history, and so forth. And it's passed down as sort of a crude form to us that seems nonsensical or even impossible. But this is what we have, and we have similar accounts of the Bible, and if we believe these alien encounters, maybe similar events happening today.
Well, maybe so. Maybe so indeed. Now, back to the giants. Are they gone from this planet now?
The giants tend to be wiped out, and once they're formed, there's usually a huge war between the giants and/or between God and the giants, or both. This happened again in around 2000 BC during time of Abraham, when the iniquity of the Amorites was coming to the full again. The giants were in the land of Canaan. God raised up Israel and trained them to attack the giants again, lest the giants rampage all over the earth and exterminate mankind, as they almost did in the world before the flood, because the giants were vicious and bloodthirsty and merciless beings who were designed specifically to kill everyone who was not a giant. So this was Satan's attempt to wipe out Homo sapiens man, the way God had created man, and replace him with his own form of man, which I call in my Giants articles in Mysterious World, Homo artificialis.
So you take a very spiritual approach to this with Planet X.
Well, it is. To me, it's integrally tied up with the Bible. It's the core concept behind the Bible, and it's reflected throughout the Bible. The description of the long, white, flowing hair, which also shows up in the book of Daniel, and the description of the Ancient of Days having this long, white, flowing hair, sounds very much like a comet tail. And indeed, the word comet in Greek literally means long, white hair. So I believe that's what...
But there's that symbolism again.
Yes, the symbolism being that Revelation 4 is actually describing Planet X and its approach again. Jesus alluded to it previously in chapter 2, saying, "I am the bright and morning star." He was leading into it. This is the secret he's giving hints towards. This planet is returning, and I'm going to be returning with it. And it's going to be used by me to destroy my enemies on Earth. Whenever it comes through, the asteroids get thrown all over the place like buckshot, and Earth will almost certainly get hit by many of them. And I suspect this is what causes many of the issues at the seals, the judgments described in the book of Revelation. Actually go into depth into that, talking about how many of the seals, actually the trumpets, sound very much like meteors and comets basically coming down and striking the Earth and having various effects. So I think that one of the reasons, one of the proofs that Planet X is central to the book of Revelation is many of the things that happen in the book of Revelation seem to be meteoric and astral in character, not just wars and rumors of wars, but actual meteorites and asteroids and comets striking the Earth. But also there's a description of a mighty angel in Revelation 10 standing between heaven and earth, which I think is also another reference to Planet X. And this maybe was described in, I think it's Revelation 14, where there's a great angel that comes down with a sickle in his hand and reaps the harvest of the earth. This might be a description of how Planet X passes close, and this arc of electricity, this plasma torus, passes between the two planets. I thought that was a particularly interesting idea, because that would explain why they were talking about a sickle. And in order to be really cause damage to Earth, Planet X would have to come pretty close to Earth. Generally speaking, probably the Antichrist will be head of a world system that will be in opposition to God. And based on our understanding of the Planet X paradigm, he will be effectively marshaling the forces of Satan to oppose the second coming, which will end up being a clashing of two armies. That is what Armageddon is. It's the heavenly army attacking the earthly army of the Antichrist. And the Antichrist's army, of course, being destroyed, because it would appear that, in my opinion, that when Planet X come close enough to Earth, there'll be an arc of lightning passing between the two planets, and whoever got in between that lightning and the ground would be annihilated. And I suspect that's what when Jesus attacks with the sword of his mouth, that's what it's talking about, is this lightning coming from the planet, and it might be miles and miles wide of a plasma arc, which could just literally disintegrate anything in its path.
I don't know if both y'all saw, but I know y'all keep up with science fiction and stuff. On NBC, they had The Event. And the last episode in The Event, they brought their home planet in the Earth's orbit or atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And it caused earthquakes and stuff like that.
Yep. The planet, as it gets closer, disrupts things. What's the worst that could happen, Doug?
Well, if we're going to go by what the book of Revelation says, there won't be a planet-splitting disaster. I mean, Earth will survive. But if you're not prepared, you're probably going to be destroyed. And Jesus said, "The meek shall inherit the earth." Probably those who are living in lowly circumstances and who don't live in large cities will probably survive okay, but the people who are used to luxury and high technology will probably do badly.
The name of the book, Planet X, an